Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel Daily on this, a Friday, January 20th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host. You know, folks, today is National Disc Jockey Day. And back in the day when she was running a pirate radio station, her best line ever was spitting the stacks of wax on the 150,000 blowtorch Tower of Power, which is a true story that I just made up. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
Oh, David, I'm great. I see Zoom is already giving us trouble today. I always find it interesting how you pick the most obscure days off the list because there's some actual good stuff here. It's National Cheese Lovers Day.
Yes.
I don't know anybody who doesn't like cheese. It is Inauguration Day, if you care about that sort of stuff. Here's one for you, because you've been covering the fetish teacher. It's International Fetish Day. Get yourself ready today as we mark a day to express and satisfy our wildest fantasies. So it reads. And you've been covering the weirdo fetish teacher from the very beginning. So
I know what you're trying to do here, Sheila Gunn Reid. You're trying to get me in trouble, and it's not going to work, especially with that photo of those black stockings. But you know what? Maybe we should combine two of those days that you just recited. I wonder, because it's International Fetish Day, do you think the fetish teacher, a.k.a. Busty Lemieux, his favorite cheese on Cheese Lovers Day is feta cheese? Feta.
Good job, David. Good job. It's also Penguin Awareness. It's also Penguin Awareness Day, which is good because remember when Catherine McKenna confused a puffin with a penguin, and she was tweeting out like, "Oh, it's National we should go back in time and look because today's the day she did that when she tweeted out about a puffin." And the most remarkable part of that mistake is there's at least 24 people involved in her tweets, and they plot them out like weeks in advance. I've seen all the documents, and she was still so terrible at tweeting and getting so many things wrong. So 24 bureaucrats in environment and climate change, and not a single one of them knew the difference between a puffin and a penguin before they tweeted.
That is staggering. And, you know, I read one comment today from the when I was trying to scrum I almost called her Greta Thunberg, you know, who's on my mind today, but Chrystia Freeland. And the fellow made the mention that she kind of looks like the Penguin. I assume he means the Batman supervillain, specifically the 1992 version. Who played him again? I'm at a loss for words.
Danny DeVito.
That's
Danny
it.
DeVito?
Which was like the grossest rendition of the Penguin.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not calling Chrystia Freeland the Danny DeVito Penguin. But a lot of comments, too, Sheila, not to get personal here, about an excess amount of junk in the trunk, if you know what I mean.
Just skip right over it. But if we're concerned about her being the penguin, I think next time let's bring a raw fish and just throw it in her direction and see how she reacts.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Olivia.
Anyway, let's keep moving.
I gotta admit, there is a resemblance. There's a little bit of a resemblance.
And I'm not even saying that she's ugly. I think she needs a new dress. But the facial structure, I can see it. Maybe the nose and sort of how everything is sort of in the middle of her face. I see the resemblance. I'm not saying that she's homely and like has black saliva like the penguin did or whatever his problem was. But I think objectively speaking, I can see it.
But I truly believe, Sheila, that Freeland thinks she's a little haughty. I don't see it, and I know you have always been on a campaign for years now, ever since we had used the blue dot to cover up a wardrobe malfunction, of, you know, begging our handlers to take her out with a personal shopper and get clothing that fits appropriately.
Has anybody ever seen the woman in pants? like pants. Try them. Anyways, we're gonna get letters, but I get letters. By the way, I get letters that people tell me I look like the obnoxious lesbian girl from the Roseanne TV show or whatever they call it now, the Connors. What, Sarah Gilbert, is that who her? I get letters that I look like her, and I see it. Objectively speaking, I guess I see it. Anyway, so everybody has a homely doppelganger is the point I'm trying to make there.
Well, at the risk of creating a HR violation, I think you always look good, Sheila Gunn Reid. And I can say that because we still don't have a director of human resources here. So who is anyone going to complain to?
Yeah. You know how people will know that we got a director of human resources at the company? You'll be fired. There won't be no more David Menzies. Like, what happened to David?
You?
Oh, they got an HR person? Okay. Let's talk about what we're doing today, and then let's get into the show because let's tighten up the nonsense at the beginning of the show. Yes. We're 8 minutes in already. So this is the Rebel News Daily live stream. It's almost always hosted by my beloved friend, David Menzies. I sit in sometimes and enjoy the ride. And we stream on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter, and Getter. And if you want to support the work that we do, well, you can't do that on YouTube anymore because they're a censorship platform. But I think we should always stay there because we shouldn't walk off the battlefield. And, spite too. I'm highly motivated by spite. If people tell me not to do something, that's how you're going to get more of me. But if you want to support the work that we do completely willingly, Rumble and Odyssey are the best ways to do that. Rumble, it's called a Rumble Rant. Leave us a paid chat. We'll do our best to read it at the end. And Odyssey, it's called a hyper chat. And we look forward to engaging with you and seeing what you think about the work that we do here at Rebel News, because unlike the mainstream media, we leave the comment section turned on and we want to talk to you because without you, we don't survive at all. So that's
100%.
It. David,
and without further ado, folks, if you want to follow up on Sheila's recommendation of getting online and kicking in $1 or $3 to support the journalism we do. Here, right now, just a few hours ago, we put up, I think it's about an 18-minute video, which is the best advertisement, I think, of the year to support Rebel News. If you thought the scrumming of the Pfizer CEO was just off the charts in terms of entertainment value, our staff, including Ezra Levent, our commander-in-chief, actually got to scrum Greta Thunberg. It was a walk and talk session. And I think if I had to pick one word to describe it, Sheila, it would be surreal. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. There was not one boring moment. I constantly said to myself, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe what I'm hearing. And this brings more fodder, I think, to my opinion, Sheila, that next year at the World Economic Forum, there won't be the kind of access that our team got to the Pfizer CEO and little Greta Thunberg. They're going to do, super security so that these kind of walk and talk scrums are done with. But it's unbelievable. I think that the header here says it all. Greta Thunberg, as you've never seen her before. You know what, folks? I think yesterday was National Popcorn Day. If you got some popcorn, grab it right now, and we're going to play some of this. It is unbelievable. Check it out.
Young ladies, time. Greta, how many times did you rehearse your arrest at the German coal mine? How many times did you rehearse it? Because it looks staged. Is it true? How many times did you rehearse your arrest? Greta, how many times did you film your arrest, and why was it staged that way?
Greta, considering you've not spent much time in school, how do you know so much about climate change?
Greta, maybe you want to talk to a real journalist. What did you talk to here in Davos? Was it successful?
Greta, as a real journalist, is climate change as real as your arrest?
Greta, how far are you willing to go? You're willing to break the law. Will you renounce violence? Will you renounce violence, Greta? Or do you support Antifa? You've worn an Antifa shirt before. Are you in favor of Antifa?
Greta, how did you get here today? What was your climate footprint in traveling here?
What's your plan while you're here, Greta?
Private. What? Do you have a Fridays for Future demo tomorrow here?
Greta, how do you feel about discussing climate change with the delegates here when nearly all of them take private jets? Do you think at least the fact these delegates take private jets is a bad thing against, what you believe in? All of this could be done via Zoom, so surely you should be encouraging all the delegates here, especially the likes of US Special Envoy John Kerry for Special Envoy for Climate Change. Surely you should be saying to these people, you should be doing this via Zoom with a much smaller carbon footprint, surely? Greta, avoid my questions if climate change is a con.
Greta, what do you think about Bitcoin?
Well, I think that says enough.
Greta, energy prices in Europe have never been higher. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Are you happy that natural gas is so expensive so people can't afford it, or do you think that's bad?
Greta, it's getting quite cold in Davos. When can I expect some global warming?
Greta, would you say you're a child actor? Are you a child actor or an expert? How would you describe yourself?
Greta, are there any climate actions planned whilst you're here with all the other activists?
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure people are planning things.
Greta, are you used to gentler questions, or do you ever talk to people who disagree with you? Greta, who was filming your arrest in Germany? Because it looked like you did that in several takes, didn't you? You were posing with the police. He's answering for you. He's answering for you. He said you had an agency.
Sometimes I wish I had one. It would be much simpler then.
Well, who was filming you then?
I don't know, media.
You don't know who was filming you in Germany? He said he knows. He says it was an agency.
News agency, you idiot.
Exactly.
Do you normally have reporters defending you?
Yeah. It's very likely that the German police and RWA fossil fuel company would stage an arrest.
How many times were you arrested? Because you posed for several times, didn't you?
Sure.
What is your main message to the people who are at the World Economic Forum? What message do you want to portray whilst you're here?
Well, of course, it depends on who you are. Some people are more responsible for this crisis than others, certainly. Careful, because here there are cars.
How come you never protest Saudi Arabia or Russia? You only protest Western energy. Why have you never criticized Vladimir Putin or OPEC?
Yeah, I've never done that. Never, ever.
Will you do so now? Will you condemn OPEC energy?
Greta, can you condemn every single delegate that's come here on a private jet? Surely that's something you should condemn.
You can do it too.
I could do it, but you're the one who has such a strong stance against climate change. And, if it's true, I commend your efforts, but could you condemn them taking private jets to these meetings?
Why won't you condemn private jets? Have you ever been on a private jet even once?
I own 100 private jets.
Well, have you been on, how about once? Have you ever been on a private jet?
All the time, yes.
I wonder why you won't answer me in a straight answer.
Greta, do you have any meetings with any people who are here, any politicians, any high business people whilst you're here?
Depends on how you define that.
Well, can you tell us who you're having talks to?
No.
Why are you having secret meetings?
Greta, do you think that in Davos, the big companies here are really interested by climate change?
Well, I guess all we have to do is see what they do.
Let's get back to those private meetings. Why are you having private meetings? Secret meetings. Who are they having secret meetings with?
Come on, people ask questions. Yes, please. You believe them?
Free speech, isn't it?
It is, but come on.
What are you doing?
When it comes to solving things like climate change and heading in a different direction, do you agree?
Wow. Sheila,
Whoa.
From nervous laughter to facetious answers to very relevant questions.
I don't think that was nervous laughter. But I'll let you go on. I've got another theory.
No, I was just going to say, ladies and gentlemen, your 2019 Time Magazine Person of the Year. Holy smokes, Sheila. I'll just say this. I find it very difficult to dislike Greta Thunberg. And I'll tell you why. Because, as Ezra was saying, this is a child actor. This is a lady who is, and she is 20 now. She's not a girl anymore, not a teenager. She's 20. This is someone who's being exploited by puppet masters. It's absolutely clear because she couldn't give a single straight answer. On the other hand, if that wasn't nervous laughter, if it was genuine laughter, then I must say, Sheila, I think she enjoyed every second of that scrum. But all those questions, I was writing them down as fast as I could, and yet not one straight answer. Just unbelievable. I think it proves the point that this is a puppet, not the person behind the strings pulling them. What's your take, Sheila?
I've moved from feeling pity for this girl who's being exploited by the people around her to the fact that she's 20 now. And I think of her as a sinister little hobgoblin who just laughs in the faces of the people whose lives she's ruined. Anybody who takes this little monster seriously, this little gargoyle is absolutely insane. People who take her seriously, governments and journalists, are advocating for policies that will put people like my husband and millions of other men just like him, and women too, out of work, decimating their families, making their lives infinitely more expensive, while she is hobnobbing with rich elites in Davos. And instead of just answering the single accountability question she's ever been asked, all she can do is laugh in the faces of these people. That's why I'm angry with her. That's why I don't think it's nervous laughter. It's mockery. It's smugness, and I hate it. You know where I was when I was her age? This is why I have no pity for her being a child anymore. Even though I think her appearance is purposefully infantilized by the people around her, she's 20. They've malnourished her, obviously, so she never grew to her potential. I firmly believe that's what they did with that vegan diet. It had nothing to do with climate footprint. Because trucking your beans all across the world in a can to Sweden surely has a higher footprint than the cheese from the cow next door, right? But where I was at 20, this is why I have no pity for these people. Where I was at 20, I was raising a 1-year-old, living on my own, making car payments, struggling to get by, but doing it on my own. This is a grown woman. We should not treat her with kid gloves anymore. That's over. She was a child actor, but like lots of child actors, they age out and then they have to get a real job. She laughed when she was first asked, can you condemn the people who came here? She laughed, when Callum asked, should this be done by Zoom? It's funny to her. She goes across the world, treated like a superstar, ruining people's lives, putting them out of work, making food more expensive, home heating more expensive, forcing people into energy poverty because people actually listen to her as though she's some sort of scientist. And all she can do is laugh and mock. And I think it's absolutely despicable. And like I said, I've moved past my pity to rage.
Wow, you're making me move past my sympathy for her, too. That was a very eloquent argument you just made, Sheila Gunn Reid, and you're 100% right on all points. I think there were so many great questions. I think the best question that we heard, at least in that snippet, was asked by Ezra Levant, which was, Greta, who are you meeting with behind closed doors? I think that is the fact that she's a climate change hypocrite. That ship has sailed. We know she takes private jets. We know, just look at the coat she's wearing. That looks like a nylon or a polyester, so it's an oil byproduct. It's not an animal hide.
It's probably down-filled. So there goes her vegan bona fides out the window because there's some naked ducks out there because she needed to stay warm.
No, 100%. But that is the crux of the matter. Who is this girl meeting with? Who is she influencing? She has hardly had an education. She's not a scientist. She is a figurehead. She is a poster girl. And it scares me, Sheila, that heads of state, that leaders of the corporate world would sit at a round table with her and go, oh, yes, that's a very good point, Greta. Yes, we understand. Yeah, we'll go through with that. Who do you think she is influencing there, Sheila?
Everybody. I mean, she's the equivalent of a child soldier at this point. Like when Hamas puts their weapons caches into schools and hospitals so you don't bomb the weapons cache. That's what she is. They trotted her out so that you couldn't be critical of the policies they were pushing forward. And she's more than happy to be the child face of all of this. I'm just a simple country journalist. I'm not a scientist. But if you doorstepped me on the street like that and you said, Sheila, what do you think about carbon taxes? The first thing I would tell you is taxes don't change the weather. And this whole thing could have been a Zoom meeting. If you care about carbon emissions, if you asked me about, nitrogen emissions, I would at least have some sort of concept about how that drives up the cost of food by limiting the farmer's yield. But she doesn't even have the basic grade 10 science knowledge of how carbon dioxide interacts in the atmosphere. She's not even there yet. So why are we considering this girl to be an expert?
No, and you know what, Sheila? If Greta was smart, and if she had the smarts, I should say, what I would have done.
Doesn't need to.
Well, here's the thing. I would have just turned the questions around on Ezra. I would just come to a stop and say, here's my answer to that query, whatever query it was. I mean, I don't know how she's going to answer it, but, for example, why are you so critical of Western oil producers, but you never go to Saudi Arabia, you never go to Russia? Well, you know what? That is a matter of fact. Let us know the answer, Greta. But this laughter, right? And I don't know if it was nervous laughter or she's actually gleeful to be in the spotlight again. That makes me lose respect for her, because if climate change, if you listen to the activists, and I heard somebody say we're 9 years away from the end of the planet because that 12-year deadline was given 3 years ago. If climate change is our extinction event, Sheila, then you better make a case right in front of the world's media about why we should change our habits. And instead, it's giggling and facetious answers. For example, later in the interview, I can't remember if she said it there. She was asked, "Have you ever been on a private plane?" And she says, "I own 100 private jets." I don't believe that, but to be so flippant about our alleged extinction event, I don't get that, Sheila.
There's another thing happening there. It's the media answering on behalf of
Oh,
her,
yeah.
saying, "Oh, Greta, do you want to talk to a real journalist? Talk to me."
Yeah, the guy in the pink toque.
Yeah. In his Women's March toque. And then there's that guy touching Ezra.
Oh, yeah.
Running interference for her, because this is the theme of Davos, and this is why we're there. These journalists are not journalists. They are participants and press secretaries. That's all they're doing. They are repeaters, not reporters. And for people like Greta, this is the first time they've ever even encountered a skeptic. And she's kept in a cloistered bubble where she thinks this is how all people think. She thinks that people think just like her. I mean, this is the girl who made her name, made herself famous, lecturing adults at the UN climate change conference. She's the one who said, "How dare you?" So then when we dare to ask a question, she doesn't have a clue.
Yep.
There's nothing, when she said that, and I said it at the time, there's nothing that distinguishes her from just a run-of-the-mill teenage girl screaming at her mom. Look, I've got two. I know the attitude. And mine are good. I shouldn't complain. But that, like, how dare you? That's just teenage angst that you get from teenage girls. But the world took it seriously for some reason. Instead of saying, "Excuse me, little lady, the grown-ups are talking." They were just happy to have a child soldier out front.
And like I said, 2019 Time Magazine Person of the Year. I mean, Sheila, what happened to that magazine? That I mean, I don't care what side of the ledger you're on in terms of the climate change debate, but this is a hollow vessel. There's no there. And for her, of all the people doing legitimate, great work on the planet, for this child, well, teenager at the time, to be picked as the Person of the Year? Are you kidding me? And there, look at that, another photo op. That wasn't Greta caught out on a walk. I wonder what the carbon footprint, Sheila, was to stage that photograph. They went to some very scenic area, and there's Greta looking off. And I've been on photo shoots. I'm telling you, probably more than 1,000 snaps were taken before they settled on that one. I wonder what the carbon footprint was for all the Time Magazine, photographers, makeup artists, lighting technicians, etc., to go over there. But again, she had the stage to answer questions with sincere answers about allegedly a catastrophic event happening in the history of our planet, and she laughs. And she uses facetious answers like, I own 100 private jets. I thought it was a shameful moment for her, and I can hardly wait. I haven't had time. It only debuted this video a couple of hours ago. I'm just wondering, Sheila, what do you think her apologists, and that could be in the media, in the climate change racket, left-wing politicians, what do you think they're going to do in order to spin that little scrum?
Greta Thunberg sloughs off climate skeptics or climate heretics. 100%. That's what it's going to be. She thinks she's smarter than everybody. She thinks she's got a lot to say to the people who've been around this game a little bit. You know what? That was her chance to show everybody.
Yep.
Like I said, if some environmental activist doorsteps me on the street, oh boy, I've been waiting my whole life to do that. And I'm not a scientist. I'm just a journalist and a mom and a farmer whose life is affected by climate policies. And I know why I oppose them. So I would have loved to have heard why she promotes them, but she couldn't do that because that she's just, as you say, an empty vessel, a child actor. But she doesn't care whose lives she ruins. That's why she had that sinister little giggle. At least it wasn't to cackle. I might have preferred a cackle, frankly.
Yeah, she does have her defenders. And, funny enough, Sheila, one of them would happen to be, of all things, the Ontario Ministry of Transportation. I did a video a few days ago about all the crazy rejected vanity plates. These are these personalized license plates. You pay about $335 and you can get up to 8 characters. And one of the rejected things was Canada. I didn't know that Canada would be a derogatory term on the license plate of a Canadian driving on Canadian roads. But one of the plates rejected, I think, was no Greta. And can you imagine? I think that falls into you're not allowed. Greta who? Pardon me. Thank you, super producer Olivia.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? I know that falls under the there are various guidelines like human rights, politicians. Evidently, you're not allowed to make mockery of politicians. But Greta is a common first name. I bet you there's been hundreds of thousands of women in the history of our species named Greta, and you can't say Greta who? I mean, and so
what if that was the woman's name? Like, what if that was her full name? Like Greta who? Greta who? Like from Whoville? What was that? What if that was her name and you just get rejected so that you protect some former teenage climate truant?
Oh yeah,
in another country.
You know what, Sheila? I wouldn't be surprised if the bureaucratic censors at the Ministry of Transportation so overthink it that, wait a minute, that's Greta. It obviously is Greta Thunberg. And who? Wait a minute, they don't mean the World Health Organization, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's a double strike. So it'll be fascinating in the hours and days ahead to see how her defenders spin this. And also, another valid question, I thought, Sheila, is what is your opinion of enacting violence to get across your message? We've seen all kinds of vandalism happening in Europe by the climate change crusaders. And even that picture, which I found a little disturbing, of Greta wearing an Antifa T-shirt. We know what Antifa is all about. It's a contraction of anti-fascist, but it really should just be fa, because they are fascists. They use all the tactics and methodology of fascists. So it's a question of, do the ends justify the means? Again, no answer, right?
No. Same people advocating for Tamara Leach to be locked up indefinitely were outraged at the treatment of Greta Thunberg in her staged arrest by police, where she's like laughing and smiling, and 5 cops or whatever it was carrying away an 80-pound girl. That's not staged. Give me a break. If that were real, they would have just one cop would have just frog marched her out. But no, it's big show of force. The cops allowed themselves to be props in Greta Thunberg's latest performance. Speaking of latest performance, before we go to break, let's show this crazy musical performance from the World Economic Forum. David, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've watched it 20 times.
Oh no.
There's a lot of hand motions, and there's a guitar, and anyways, I think they're singing maybe the sounds. Is it singing? There's sounds happening. and it's dying coral, I think. Anyway, let's roll it. I think that's enough. I don't know. Anyways, they're like a musical group from Israel. I guess that's a group. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're trying to kill the coral with their music, or they're trying to bring it back to life, or if they're singing about the dying coral. I don't know. But apparently the coral is dying, and it inspired whatever it is that we just saw there.
Well, certainly, if there's an aquatic theme going, they're not sirens, those mythical creatures from Greek mythology that lured sailors with their music
No,
to
they're going the other way.
yeah, that's right. If I'm the captain, I'm going all reverse, dead ahead. That is spectacular. I can only imagine, Sheila, that Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie are now grinding their teeth. Darn it, why didn't we go this year? Justin's thinking I could have done a little duet, kind of like Queen and David Bowie, Under Pressure, do Bohemian Rhapsody again. And,
You and me should do a duet about how much we dislike the demise of plastic cutlery. Bring back the plastic cutlery.
That was something. I mean, maybe after we take the ad break, I never thought I would see a musical performance that would make Yoko Ono look good. And I'm talking about Yoko Ono. I think it was at the New York Metropolitan Art Museum about 10 years ago. Maybe super producer Olivia can look for that. But wow, that was something. That's not something that's going to land on the top 40 million chart, I don't think. But in the meantime,
tell me these people aren't in a cult. Like the entire World Economic Forum is just, I think it's cult-like behavior. Now they have hymns. Those people are called Noah and Gil. I don't know which one is Noah or which one is Gil, but they are supposed to be raising awareness about the plight of Red Sea corals. And I've been watching with the sound off, and it's something. This is going to be my new fun thing to do. I also watch Krista Freeland with the sound off sometimes just for fun, because she's always like twitching and freaking out in the background. Watch her with the sound off and just pay attention to her, like when Justin Trudeau's talking. It's a fun experiment. But yeah, I'm watching this with the sound off. And is she dressed like the ocean?
I
don't know.
so.
Anyways, let's
Sheila,
go to an ad break.
How about, by the way, one last point. How about stop it already with raising awareness? If you really feel bad about the coral, go out there and do something, whatever it needs to be done to help the coral. I'm not anti-coral, but you singing that ridiculous song, I mean, that might make people anti-coral, So.
Oh, I'm anti-coral now. For sure. I'm going to poison all the coral. I'm going to pour bleach on it. Whatever it takes, just make them stop.
Let's pause for a brief break, folks. We'll be right back.
Have you checked out the fresh new swag we have at rebelnewsstore.com? Like this nifty resistance trucker sweater. We have warm, cozy sweaters, t-shirts, mugs, hats, phone cases, you name it. Everything to fit your freedom-loving needs, or maybe even trigger a liberal family member or friend. And for a limited time, you can use code TAMARA10 at checkout to save 10% off of your total order. So head on over to rebelnewsstore.com, check out all of our new designs, make some purchases, and use code TAMARA, that's TAMARA 10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Head on over, check it out.
Go back to your truck. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Leave us alone.
You guys are cowards.
Hey!
Now it's him dropping your phone.
Well, that last clip, Sheila, was apropos given our next news article. It appears that a biological male is considering filing human rights complaints after being barred from a BC women's gym. Yeah, let's see how that goes.
Do we have the video? Because the video is just something. Do
you know
have
what?
The video of this person?
You're right. Why don't we run the video and riddle me this, folks. Is it a he or a she or something in between? Olivia's looking for the video. And I am full of trepidation about this, Sheila, because of all the Looney Tune kangaroo court human rights tribunals, the worst of the worst is the BC Human Rights Tribunal.
Yeah.
They are complete wackadoodles. I think it might have been in Western Standard when Ezra was running the magazine. I'll never forget, there was a ruling, and I don't know why this was a human right, but it was a McDonald's employee who was handling food. She's part of the food service chain. Said that it was against her human rights to wash her hands with warm water and soap. And they upheld that, right? And so, again, yeah, Sheila, I mean, you can look it up. I wish I had before the show, but this is one of the acts of lunacy to come out of the BC Human Rights Tribunal. So as crazy as that is, this might seem quasi-normal in the crazy times in which we live. I think we do have the clip. Take it away, Tinkerbell.
28-year-old Bridget Klein-Simpson has identified as a woman for years, and she wants to get into better shape, so she went to the Bodyworks gym for women in Parksville for a membership. Klein-Simpson says she was initially welcomed, but after one workout she was informed she was not allowed at the women's-only gym.
Saying, sorry, we made a mistake, you're not actually allowed to be here, but you're more than welcome to use the co-ed facility. And I kind of just hung up because I was devastated. I mean, there's really no other word for it.
Klein-Simpson changed her gender and name legally close to 2 years ago, and she's been on hormone replacement therapy for more than 3 years. She says she wants to work out at a women's-only gym where she will feel comfortable, unlike her experiences at gyms while in university.
I didn't quite understand why that was uncomfortable, because I didn't know I was trans at the time. I still thought I was a guy as well. But it was just important to me to be in a place that would be explicitly accepting, you are a woman, you can, you're allowed to be here.
The gym's owner says members have a diversity of sexual identities, but he believes Klein-Simpson would fit better at their co-ed gym, where there are gender-neutral change rooms.
Do we pick the comfort of the transgender person, and they may not be as comfortable with the co-ed gym, but at least that's an alternative? Or do we pick the comfort of the young girls that are working out there? They may not feel comfortable. I don't know if is that fair to them, and what would parents think? What would you think if this is your daughter there?
Negra says he's open to ideas and options. Klein-Simpson says she understands some may be uncomfortable with trans people.
I mean, all it takes is education. I mean, once you understand, trans women are women, trans men are men, non-binary people are who they say they are, and I mean, it's as simple as that. And if you're still if you still feel uncomfortable after that, I mean that's on you.
She's going public because she doesn't want this to happen to other trans people. She says she's considering a complaint to BC's Human Rights Tribunal.
Well, Sheila,
you know
first
what
of
I
all,
see there? I gotta stop you. So we've got a privileged white man in a privileged class who is trying to force a minority business owner into violating the rights of the women in his female-only space. I think that's what's happening here. Once I distill it all down. But go ahead, David.
Oh, no, that's a great point. And it's kind of deja vu of the Jonathan Yaniv story, right? Where he was trying to get typically immigrant women running spas out of their homes to, wax his junk, which they were not uncomfortable which they were clearly uncomfortable with, and there were plenty of services in Vancouver that would accommodate him. But no, he had to run a racket of, what was it? He filed, I think, more than a dozen complaints, Sheila.
13,
but, I mean, first things first, I do want to applaud that gentleman for going to the gym.
He needs some help. But I thought we were going to say we applaud the business owner, because that guy, he needs help.
I've got to applaud both. First of all, the client, I want to applaud him for recognizing that he should get on a treadmill. I mean, did you see that face? There was more chins on that face than you'd find in the Beijing phone book. But
you know what, though? In fairness, I will stop you there because we're going to get letters. But in fairness, estrogen will do that to you. So that's one of the side effects that male to female transitioners experience is a sort of uncontrolled weight gain. Welcome to female hormones. And so that it's one of the things that they do experience. So, think twice maybe before you consider hormonally transitioning if you're concerned about your weight and your diabetes and blood sugar and all those things.
I did not know that. But Sheila, at the end of the day, joking aside, this is not a problem in search of a solution. As the gym owner said, there is a solution. You go to the co-ed gym. And there's a co-ed, evidently, change room. I've never been at a gym where there's like when they say a co-ed change room, does that include, the shower facilities? I know the gyms I go to, it's male and female. I don't know how they handle these kind of statistical anomalies. But there is a solution for this person. This is another example of somebody in the so-called trans community being the tail that wants to wag the dog. We, as a society, we have to shift on our axis to accommodate this person. And we don't know, maybe there's a fetish issue here. Maybe this is someone gaming to have a human rights tribunal complaint heard, in which case he's going to get 5 or maybe even 6 figures of compensation. But again, Sheila, there is a solution there. That would be my response to the tribunal if I was called upon it. Look, there's a co-ed area. You can do whatever you want there. Males, females, whatever you're pretending to be, that's where you change. Why is this man, and that's what this is, that nonsense of that reporter using the pronoun she. Come on, give me a break. Are you blind? Look what you're dealing with. This is a man trying to disrupt a female gym. And again, where is the feminist movement? Why are they not so much concerned about biological females, who I think number, about 4 billion people on the planet, but they're all in with the lunatic fringe trans individuals who are trying to cause trouble? This is a troublemaker, Sheila.
I stopped as that video was rolling, and I Googled on my computer here, gyms in Qualicum. And there are dozens of gyms in Qualicum, most of them co-ed. There's only a few that are women's only spaces. And did you notice the language that he used there? He said, I would feel more comfortable at a women's only gym.
Yeah.
What about the women who have chosen a women's only gym? Because that's where they feel more comfortable. Their comfort doesn't matter. There's no attempt to balance the rights of anybody here. And what about the gym owner? He's got a right to do business with whomever he wants. He chooses to do business, a niche market, to create a place that's a women's only space. If you force him to contract with you, you may as well be advocating for slavery. If you have a business, you can do business with whomever you want. If you think that's discrimination and the rest of the community thinks it's discrimination, then they can let their dollars do the walking. But I've been told over the last 3 years that it's okay to discriminate against people based on their medical history. So, you know what? Let's dance.
Sheila, here's the question, which of course was never posed to him. Why would you feel more comfortable in a female change room being a biological male? Is it because you legitimately feel that you are a woman or a pseudo woman, as the case may be? Or are you kind of a pervert and you're going to get a free peep show by being in the women's change room? I'm not making a joke here, Sheila. I mean, what is the motivation of his comfort zone in terms of going to the female change room?
You know what else, too? Like, what kind of person purposefully makes a bunch of innocent people who are minding their own business feel uncomfortable? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like barging in on people who are having a private conversation. It's weird, right? That's what he's doing. But this is even more intimate than that, because this is where people are changing. This is where they might be naked. They might be using the bathroom. This is a very intimate space. And I just think it's weird to try to shoehorn yourself into that. It's like that guy who invites himself on the things that you do with your friends. It's that, but like way, way weirder, way creepier. If you are doing something that's making all these people uncomfortable, maybe stop and rethink what you're asking them to give away for you.
And you know what, Sheila? I know this is terribly impolite of me, but can we also address this issue? Could this be a case of mental illness? Once upon a time, you had people getting psychiatric treatment because they believed they were Jesus Christ or Napoleon. Why is it that we're taking it on face value that this guy has all his marbles? He might need psychiatric healing in order to get his life back on track. But nope, we have a saying right now, and you see by the slant of that media report, basically it's this: if it's trans, it's good, and if it's good, it's trans. And if you all have a problem with that, you are haters, you are bigots, you are transphobic. Well, I'm not buying any of that crap, Sheila.
Again, this is one of my things where I think it's not kindness. What we're doing here is not kindness. I think there are better ways to deal with this for everybody involved, and just pretending that any of this is good and just, I think is it flies in the face of abject reality. And every day I'm saddened by the amount of people who are willing to reject reality in favor of living in a sweet, sweet lie.
And Sheila, that is what's happened. I mean, just look, for goodness sakes, at the Halton District School Board with Busty Lemieux wearing completely inappropriate clothing. Say that was a real biological woman. Say that woman had Z-cup breasts, and I know I guess it's possible. The fact that you would wear sheer tops to make the nipples protrude, the fact that if a student wore that, she is suspended. The fact that you couldn't wear that as a Halloween costume. Oh, yeah, the HDSB has Halloween costume guidelines. But here's what I'm getting at. They are so scared to say, okay, you identify as a woman with enormous fake breasts, but could you at least please cover up the nipples? Oh, no. That's too much of an ask. That might come across as being transphobic. That's where we are in the world today, Sheila.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, if a biological woman, either made herself look like Busty Lemieux or actually looked like Busty Lemieux, there would be a real problem. Yeah. But because it's, a guy dressed in the most obnoxious way, it's fetish gear. The bike shorts, I have my own theories about the bike shorts. The sheer shirt with the nipples protruding, all it is about forcing other people's kids to participate in his own voyeur fetish. Yeah. And it's being enabled by the school board, and it's horrific. Speaking of horrific, what a horrible transition. This next story, it took me 3 days to read the first installment of this 4-part installment of this investigation done by Town Hall, and I can't even get over the good journalism here. I'm envious of the quality of journalism they've done here. They investigated a suburban LGBTQ pedophile ring. Here's what we found. Proceed with caution. People, if you're going to go to Town Hall and find this, steel your stomach and be prepared to put down your phone, close your laptop, slam your laptop down, walk away, hug your kids. The whole thing is an absolute failing of social services and anybody involved who had contact with these kids along the way. What they found, and again, if you're watching and you don't have the stomach for any of this, and I'm not going to talk about the gory details, but there are gory details. These young boys were adopted by this gay couple, and they had all the right politics, right? Obama profile pictures, Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, rainbow, love wins, love is love, blah, blah, blah. They get married. They're both, I would say, probably lower middle class. Bank teller and a low-level bureaucrat, I think, is the other guy. And they get married. They adopt these kids. And then pretty quickly, their lifestyle instantly changes. They custom build a mansion. And and this happened in 2019, they built a mansion in 2020. They are traveling all over the United States. And you can go back on their social media and see where they've traveled because they're posting pictures with the kids. Now, and it's interesting because when you see the pictures of the kids, all their faces are always blocked out on social media. And as it turns out, most people, initially I thought it too, oh, they're protecting the kids' identities. No, what they were doing was they were blocking out the kids' faces in case they were ever caught with the child pornography they were producing of these kids, that their faces would not be recognized in the algorithm. Wow. They were abusing these kids. They were making child pornography. It was pretty obvious. The implication is they were selling it, which is why the drastic change in their lifestyle that these two sort of lower middle class guys could afford a custom built mansion and multiple cars. And they were posting about how great these kids were doing, and even like in their social media posts, how bad the foster care system is and how terrible it is that kids get abused in the foster care system. They were Snapchatting other people within their LGBTQ pedophile ring, basically trafficking these kids to them and making child porn of the kids and selling it. And this is probably not YouTube safe. They don't like that word. But they went through a progressive Christian adoption agency, and it was sort of fast-tracked. And the worst part is one of the husbands, he had a previous charge for rape of a 14-year-old boy. I think it was 2013. He gets married in 2014, or hooks up with the new guy in 2014. They get married in 2017. They adopt these kids in 2019, and the money just starts rolling in. And the whole thing is horrific. It's just horrific. Town Hall did incredible journalism. Kudos to the journalist there. I forget who it was. A woman. So probably pretty tough on her, although I think it's tough on everybody to, they got access to the prison tapes, all the evidence, the medical examinations of these boys. Like, it's just horrific. They even got someone from the family to talk to them, like the family of these men, to talk to them. Incredible journalism, but a failing of the entire progressive social services system in the United States.
Sheila, what I find so egregious about what you've just recapped is the fact that one of these pedophiles already had a criminal charge on the books in terms of raping a minor. And yet you said earlier, because of all the identity politics boxes that were checked off, BLM, pro-Obama, etc., this adoption was fast-tracked. I thought part of an adoption is you automatically look at the criminal records of the people, especially for this kind of thing. But do you mean to say that this progressive church, they thought that the identity politics of these two individuals was more important than a criminal record, and that those identity politics trumped a criminal record, and that criminal record was exactly the kind of thing that you would look for in terms of having one of these predators get a child in their clutches in the first place? I can't believe this.
I should clarify, and now that I'm talking, it reminds me of more horrible details of this story. So the charge was filed, and then the case was closed without a conviction. But it still should have turned up, and it should have been enough to scare the adoption agency away from this couple. Now that charge is being reopened because the new investigators are saying, what the heck happened that this was closed without any real investigation? What happened here does not meet our investigation standards. and something seriously wrong happened here. So now they're worried about how far does this pedophile ring go? Does it touch the police service? This progressive church-run adoption agency, wouldn't you know it, it's now defunct. And although in communications with the former director of that defunct adoption agency, they were interested now in adopting a 2 to 3 year old girl. But they said, sorry, the adoption agency is closed, but you can go here, here, and here if you're interested in adopting a little girl in this age range. I guess they were tailoring the children to their customers' needs. And it gets worse because these boys that they adopted, they were hard to place, very hard to place, because they came from a home where they had already been abused. Their earliest memories are of abuse, and their parents were heroin addicts. So they had a tough life. They were already hard to place. They were deeply troubled kids. They had behavioral issues. And these guys knew those kids are hard to place. They'll be so grateful when we take them. And any improvements in their behavior will be us. We did that, patting them on the back. And so they took kids who had already suffered, knowing that they would be easy to exploit, as long as they had, you know, a nice place to live and food in their belly. And that's what happened there.
And Sheila, one last question. Where is the story right now? I see a photo, it's obviously photoshopped, of the two individuals behind bars with a big lock on it. Where does it stand right now?
Okay, so you know what's interesting here is this should be like horrific, like everybody should know about this. But I think their arrests happened in July. And July, we're just now hearing about it because Town Hall started investigating. Why don't we know about this pedophile ring? So it happened in July. The state has seized all their assets because they do think they're proceeds of crime. These guys are in jail on multiple charges: sex trafficking, producing child pornography. I think they're facing multiple life sentences. They're starting to turn on each other, but not really. They've arrested some people in the ring, and they're still investigating. They're trying to get those low-level creeps to turn on the other creeps because there's a lot of money involved here. And I think their next court appearance is in February, beginning of February sometime. So I think they're in Alabama. Don't quote me on that. Or I know Alabama came up in the story because they were interested in buying these guys. Again, low-level bank teller, low-level bureaucrat. They were interested in buying a beachfront property on the Alabama shores. After they've custom built this mansion. So the police are absolutely convinced there are some big money people behind all of this, and everything they own is a proceed of crime.
You know, the irony is so perverse, isn't it, Sheila? They were making that custom built mansion, and hopefully they're going to live out the rest of their lives in a mansion. It's just a mansion called a prison that they're going to share with hundreds of other creeps like themselves. So we should keep an eye on that, how that story goes. I see we're really running out of runway space here because it's already 2 o'clock. Should we get to some super chats, or is there something that we needed to take care of?
No, let's hit an ad break and then we'll go right into the last. I think we just have one chat.
Okay.
If you want to look good and shine like me, you can do so at our store. Go to ribbonnewstore.com. On this website, you have so much different style to wear, as this one, my favorite one, Justin Castro. With my code Alexa10, you will have 10% off on your next purchase. So don't hesitate, go now and look so good like me.
Go back to your truck.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Leave us alone.
You guys are cowards.
Hey! That was him dropping your phone.
I always find it fascinating, Sheila, that on a beautiful sunny day without a cloud in the sky, why is it Antifa always have their umbrellas out? I mean, are they worried about some local storm popping up? Or maybe it's just to cover up the shenanigans, like the violence and vandalism that they incur. What a bunch of creeps. But
when they robbed Katie, they swarmed with umbrellas, and that way they can just sort of put them and block what they're doing underneath the umbrellas. Because they're a bunch of coward thugs.
Been there, done that, Sheila. I'll tell you that much. So why don't we get to some of those chats before we sign off?
Sure. And I should remind everybody about the last part of the ad break there. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Mountain. It's the premiere of a project that Matt and Drea have been working on. It's called Dragged, Love is Louder. And it is basically the Battle of the Coquitlam Library at the Drag Queen Story Hour last weekend. And the reason they waited to launch it is because they wanted to wait for the mainstream media to get the story wrong about the violence that broke out at the Coquitlam Library against people who are opposed to the sexualization of children through these drag queen story hour readings by these people who think it is their moral duty to dress as women and read stories to other people's children.
Unbelievable.
Violence broke out. The mainstream media journalists were there. It's gone unreported. They've painted the counter protesters of the drag queen event. So like the concerned parents and grandparents, they've painted them as the violent ones. Well, tonight you'll learn the truth. And if you do tune in, Dre and I are sticking around afterwards where you can put some questions to her about what happened there, how she felt. It was pretty intimidating, pretty violent. She could hardly work. But she stuck it out because it was so important to tell the other side of the story, because she knew the mainstream media would get it wrong on purpose.
And Sheila, you know what the most despicable part of that is when you say the mainstream media? That is right now, AKA your tax dollars hard at work, folks. You're funding this garbage.
And the library, by the way.
Yep. Another taxpayer-funded entity.
Yeah, but Drea and I were talking about this a little earlier. She sent a couple of media requests into the library saying, like, hey, what did you do to make sure that everybody had like a background check before they were allowed to read to kids? They won't respond to her. But they did go out of their way to ensure there was security there to escort the drag queen off the property safely so that the drag queen didn't have to encounter any protesters asking, like, hey, why do you feel it's necessary to dress as a woman and read to other people's children? Like, why do you think that's a human right? So the library went out of their way to ensure the safety of the drag queen, but not really to ensure the safety of the children who are participated in any of this.
Oh, well, Sheila, get your priorities straight. It's 2023.
Right. Who cares about kids? I mean, that's really been the whole the theme of the last half of this show. Okay, let's get to the last two chats here. We've got one from Jorgie, $5. I have a funny question. Would David be able to ask questions if he were in Switzerland due to the fact he would be out of breath? Ha ha ha, kidding.
Hey, I got a few pounds to lose, but I think I could keep up with that. What did you call her, Sheila? The hobgoblin of Sweden?
Yeah, the gargoyle.
Yeah, I mean, she might be more physically fit, and that's debatable, but I've got longer legs, so I think she needs to do...
You work out. You're on the bike all the time. I think that she probably has a serious case of anemia. Yeah. And I don't know. That she just makes me so angry. She just makes me so angry. She's so smug about all the people's lives her policies stand to ruin. And who cares about first world people like my family? Well, what about all the people in the developing world who would love some natural gas so that they don't have to die of particulate poisoning because they're burning garbage and animal dung to cook their food and stay warm? Yep. What about those people? Don't they deserve a comfortable life, or at least a healthy life? No, not according to these people. There's too many people on the planet, but they don't mean them. They mean me and those people in the developing world. Too many of those people.
Sheila, What do you think the over-under number is in terms of a year in which Greta Thunberg still remains, authentic or credible, at least in those circles that she appeals to?
I think that's why she staged her little arrest and protest right before the World Economic Forum, is she had to put herself back in the headlines, right? Like it was a publicity stunt knowing she's going to the World Economic Forum a day or 2 days later or whatever it was. And she knew she would be like caught and released because it was all staged, right? She knew they wouldn't hold her so that she couldn't go to the World Economic Forum. So I don't know. She's struggling to hang on to relevancy. Yeah. I just don't see an up and coming climate scold to replace her.
And my only other question is this: what is the Thunberg family worth since this rise to prominence with little Greta being the climate change Cassandra? I am just, in this business, Sheila, follow the money, right? And I am sure they are doing exceedingly well off basically doing nothing other than being climate alarmists.
Oh, I'm sure her Antifa climate mom, her Antifa pageant mom, I should call her, is probably just rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
Happy to put her child out, adult now, out in the limelight to scold the world, and she just rakes in the dough like every other showbiz parent does.
Indeed.
Anyway, last question. Nan PM gives us $10, and it's not a question, it's a compliment. Says you guys are awesome. Well, thanks. I think we're all caught up.
Well, what a way to end our Thank God It's TGIF Friday show. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, especially for those who gave a financial contribution. And, of course, super producer Olivia behind the boards, and Sheila, wishing you a wonderful weekend, as always. And, hey, folks, we'll be back again on Monday. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of new shenanigans occurring over the weekend that we will call out the bad actors on. You get the real deal here.
Do you know what, David? I was just thinking. I was supposed to be on that Davos trip, but half the company is gone. We've got people on vacation, so I thought I'll stay behind and work, and I'm glad I did. Because if I had been able to doorstep Greta on the street, it wouldn't have been as gentle as Ezra and Callum, that's for sure. I would have been off the rev limiter, and it wouldn't have been a good look for us. So I'm sort of glad I stayed home. The Lord works in mysterious ways.
You took the words out of my mouth because of her diminutive size. There's a fine line there. Female, small. You don't want to look like you're a bully. And I thought our team pulled it off. I thought
it was perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Even at the end of the video, you'll see, folks, where Greta says, okay, that's it. We want to go to our place now. And everyone stops walking with her. And I thought that was a class move. And besides, really, after 20 minutes of asking the questions over and over again and either not getting an answer or getting a facetious answer or that ludicrous giggle of hers, I mean, really, what was the point to continue following her? So I thought they played it right. Well, Sheila Gunn Reid, we don't want the world to cast you as a bully, do we?
Sometimes my teenage daughter, she'll pretend to cry to try to get her way, and I just laugh in her face. I'm like, no, it doesn't work on me. Sorry, I'll let you wrap up the show.
Okay, and folks, please go to that video. Just posted earlier this morning, and it is as they say on the Midway, a 5-coupon ride. You will enjoy every second of it. Trust me.
WEFreports.com.
That's right. And please, if you want to continue funding this journalism, nobody else is in the media is going to give you that kind of coverage, whether it's Greta, the Pfizer CEO a couple of days ago. We're the only source, but we depend on your donations. So please, if you're able to, open up your pocketbooks. Well, that's it for this Friday, January 20th. Have a wonderful weekend. And as always, folks, stay safe and stay sane.
You applied to get in, and I presume if you paid anything, it was a nominal $100. But to get one of these pavilions, to get sponsorship status, which some of the other media like CNBC have, that's hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars. In a way, it's a kind of money laundering operation that they don't have to disclose if they were giving a donation to the Liberal Party of Canada or to the Democratic Party of the United States.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bill Browder, who's a big anti-Putin activist and financial guy, he's been to Davos in the past. He said this year they wanted him to pay $250,000 US to be a participant. Now, some of the corporations that are represented here that are WEF partners, they pay an annual member